This is a meeting of our advisors of the Payne Hollow on the Ohio board, and we have several people here. We have one more coming in right now. I wanted to let everybody know that we're recording this, and Jessica, who's down there on my left-hand side, is taking notes. And so feel free, if you have something that you want to make sure that gets into the notes, put it into the text, in the chat, or feel free to say stop, and we want to make sure this gets clearly in the notes, and because it's an important thing. I did send out the agenda earlier, and we do have one addition to this agenda, which is an America the Beautiful grant that we can sort of have at the last item, because it is an exciting possibility. Once again, we are recording this, so feel free to say anything you want to. But also, one thing I totally encourage is the use of the chat. Because sometimes, ideas get generated and you have a crazy idea, put it in the chat. Or if you have a question or whatever, we're serious about getting as much input as possible as we go forward. Any other suggestions for the agenda? The first thing we're going to do is to sort of have introductions, because we do have a few new people, and we might have another two that I thought were going to join us. So welcome. My name's David Wicks. I'm a river rat. I spent my time with the public school system in public education about the outdoors for 30 years, and I retired. And I still teach at the University of Louisville and work on the Ohio River. And I'm just a fan of the sustainable lifestyle that Mr. Hubbard and Anna Hubbard sort of portrayed in Payne Hollow. And I'm just I'm tickled to death to be part of this process. I'm just going to call people off, and feel free to say what you want to, as long as it's not too long. And John, you're up here on the left of my screen, so you're on. Who are you?
John Fettig? Yeah, okay. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm the guy who can't get emails. You probably got that message, hopefully, from me. Hello, Chuck Keller. I'm so glad you made it. June and I are headed in your direction on Sunday morning. We'll be in Kentucky, Indiana, Greater Cincinnati for almost 2 weeks. And we were friends of Anna and Harlan, and I'm just tickled to death that this group exists. Happy to know each of you, and happy that in some cases you're getting to know each other a whole lot better too, as I am. It's a good thing. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
Mr. Hill.
Bob Hill, retired Courier Journal columnist, feature writer, book author, and owner with his wife of Hidden Hill Nursery, an 8-acre arboretum we created from 8 acres of weeds and grass with some help from John Nation.
And he's tall. How about Bob Canada?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about the progress. You guys in Louisville are really, John Fettig kind of stirred the water a few years ago. You guys are really following through. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to hear what's going on tonight in the meeting. I live in Madison near the bridge. And of course, we all love the Hubbards.
Mr. Nation.
Yes, I'm John Nation. I'm a photographer. I worked with Louisville Magazine for a number of years. And back in the early or late 70s, I first went out to Payne Hollow and did a story out there. I've looked for the images. I can't find them, but that's no surprise if you've seen my office. I did see Dobry Adams and Jonathan Green the other night at an opening at the University of Louisville Archives, and they're looking forward, John Fettig, to your and David's visit coming up.
Yeah, I met Jonathan, but not Dobry. I'll be seeing them on Tuesday.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
My name's Chuck Keller. I live in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. I I'm also a retired educator after 34 years. When I started, I had hair. And I am now the president of the Fort Thomas Forest Conservancy. We are a 501c3, and we were founded in Harlan Hubbard's studio here in Fort Thomas. And we have that under protection now, and we use that as our environmental experience center. And we hold classes and events and other things there, in addition to our other duties of being a 501c3 land trust. Harlan is a man of my own heart. I tell you what, I didn't know about Harlan for a while, but my dad and I built a reclaimed house, all from reclaimed materials. We spent years, a couple years collecting materials, and we built a beautiful little 2-bedroom octagonal cottage on a lake down in Pendleton County. And it is just one of those things that people drive by, they just can't believe it. And then when I tell them it's all reclaimed, they say it's impossible. Harlan always said, whatever you need is before you. That is so true. And we see that all the time. So it's good to see. Yeah, thanks for the invitation, by the way.
Well, welcome to our group for sure. And we look forward to working with you and the folks up in Northern Kentucky for sure. Jessica.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I came to the Hubbards through my undergraduate years at Hanover College in Madison. And I came to Harlan through his art first, and then discovered his writing after that as I was curating my first exhibit on him. I've been involved in lots of different projects with many of you over the years, curatorial projects, writing projects. Most recently, I worked with Peter and Bill and Flo Cadell on the wonderful watercolors of Harlan Hubbard. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. And I am currently writing the new biography on Harlan. So looking forward to that moving along, and very, very fortunate to be working with all of these wonderful people on such a worthy project.
Jessica is also on the board, and she's serving as secretary. And so she truly is literate. She can keep notes of this wide-ranging conversation. Peter. You're on mute, Peter.
Unmuted. I'm Peter Morin. I'm the former director of the Speed Art Museum. I was there for 21 years, and then I head up the Center for Arts and Culture Partnerships at the University of Louisville. And now I write a lot about art and make some and see if I can find a way to be useful in the world.
Thank you. Joe Wallach.
Howdy, I'm Joe Wallach, photographer and artist here in Louisville. Returned to Kentucky a few years ago after a long hiatus, and that's when I discovered the Hubbards by hanging out with some of the cronies here on this group. It's been a very good and exciting thing to know more and more about. Been up to Paint Hollow a few times now, and I look forward to potentially being the first person to do an extended stay there in October once the place is ours. I have not brought that up to anybody until right now, but I'm throwing it out there.
Joe is also on the board and serves as vice chair, so certainly reach out to Joe with any ideas. Francis.
Francis Manone, I'm with Frost Brown Todd's Project Finance Advisory Group. I've been helping with the pro bono legal work that you guys are getting for the purchase and sale agreement, and also for the submittal of the 1023 form for the IRS for the federal tax nonprofit status. And when I say helping, I just connected you with a resource that will be able to do that for you, a guy named Jason Halligan. And then I'm also working on funding through a grant through the Ohio River Way. And now I just chased the cat off. The cat was interested in providing some value, but he's gone now.
Frances is also a very much of an adventuresome woman who likes the river. Mr. Bagley.
Hi, I'm John Begley. I'm the retired gallery director at the University of Louisville and a fan of Harlan's art and his life on the river. The river is a fascinating place, and I think we ought to do everything we can to make sure its cultural resource is recognized. And
Brown Todd for their legal work. We are an incorporated organization, not for profit, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and have our material together to apply for a federal status of 501c3 not for profit status. And sort of the process is, and sort of this next item that we're going to talk about is a 501c3. But we are looking for a treasurer for our organization. We do have 4 board members. And so if anybody knows of a kindred spirit, you know, we're a collegial group who really, we don't like to argue too much. And we have short meetings. And so there's work to be done behind the scene for sure, but we are looking for a treasurer. So if anybody knows of anybody, our default right now is Ed Steinbach, who is not here, but he has done that. We do have a bank account, and we have money in the bank account, and so we're good with our initial amount of money. And so there are 4 of us on the board, and that is Joe Wallach and myself and Jessica Whitehead and Ted Steinbach. Are there any questions about our board or our structure? Moving right along then, I did send out what Frost, Brown, and Todd has asked to become a 501c3 status organization. They will do all the legwork. We had to come up with a 3-year budget, a basic 1-page description of what we're doing, and adopted bylaws. And so I sent them out to everybody here.
Sure that the bylaws and the articles of incorporation agree. I've been in trouble with organizations before that had some discrepancies between the two.
Well, we have reviewed them, and in many ways, it's a wonderful pleasure. Many thanks to Francis for our legal beagles at Frost, Brown, and Todd. Okay. And so they not only they were not only reviewed in Louisville, but they sent them up to Cincinnati, where they have a Office of Historic Preservation in there, somewhere in their Frost, Brown, and Todd offices that they looked at it also. But if anybody sees any, any issues, please let us know, because we are in that process of the application for our federal 501c3. It also has been told to us that the IRS says that once you apply, you're provisionally accepted as a 501c3 status organization. The caveat that if for whatever reason we're denied our permit, then we have to go back to everybody and say we were denied. But I believe Mr. Halligan at Frost, Brown, and Todd is optimistic that we will go through. Any questions, any thoughts?
Well, even if it was denied the first time, we could reapply and continue until it went through, correct?
That's right.
Yes. And they think it's very unlikely that we will have any trouble with this. And we've been very fortunate to have the legal counsel we have. Just so you know, all of this has been sent to our attorneys. She is the woman who will be working on this for us, is out of the office until the 25th, but we should have finalized comments from them and finalized documentation and start moving forward on the application again by the 25th.
Just another thought is the bylaws down as soon as they sign it. I did get a text from Britain about 2 hours ago saying they're still talking with the family. So Paul Hasselfurter has nieces in Florida, that I think they just want to be assured that everybody is happy with the agreement that has been signed. They've technically approved it. Matter of fact, they rewrote our offer, and then we took that and gave it to Frost, Brown and Todd, and Frost, Brown and Todd added a few items to cover everybody's bases, and so that's what they're reviewing now. And it's our hope that sometime this week we get a signed contract. And so, is there anything else? Several parts of this is that we will have access to the property 24 hours in advance notice. So we have to provide Britton and or Paul 24 hours notice in advance. And during that time, we would be allowed to clean up the property, pick up all the trash, organize any of the papers, store them appropriately, and do what's called a stabilize and dry process, where we have had a colleague of Paul Hasselfurder's and ours, Ray Kleinhelter. He went up and did an assessment of it, and he found quite a number of issues with the two buildings. He's a contractor, and so we're allowed to do that investigation and then talk to Britton and Paul to say we need to patch this roof, or these windows are a problem, or the doors need, locks on them, or whatever the issue is. And it's significant. There's some foundation work that needs to go on. So all of that, if Paul signs off on it, we would be able to do.
So, but yes, we will have lots of opportunities for volunteers to help us out. And this will be a long process of cleanup and securing.
Quick question, as I'm trying to visualize this. Most of you folks now, I think, have gone both by water and down the hill, down the water. How do you visualize the in and outs during this period of, let's call it cleanup and cataloging and whatever?
I think it depends on the person coming. We'll have to certainly talk with the neighbors who are up at the top of the hill about the parking and the access for the easement. We certainly will get a survey to justify that easement. And it could be by boat. So it just sort of depends on who is doing it. Ray Kleinhelter, who is just the one contractor that we talk to, he's been there for about 30 years. He has a boat, so he would zip on up there. Joe went with him when he made the assessment. Joe, any comments about Ray Kleinhelter and his assessment up there? Joe?
I vote for him.
Yeah, I just want to say I was up there with him when he did the survey. We walked through a lot of things together, and depending on how things go, there's certain things that can be done immediately just to protect further deterioration, and then other things that can be held off for the historical survey and all that sort of thing before any pieces of wood get damaged or what have you. But I
think he has a good understanding of the nuances.
For sure, and he knows the place and he knows what we're doing. He's not just some builder Yahoo coming in and wanting to hack away at stuff. So
great.
Yeah, and he's conscious of our mission as well as our financial concerns, and he's definitely not trying to make a buck off of this. He's just trying to help out as much as he can.
That's great.
He also has been personal friends with Paul Hasselfurder for a long time. And so he knows the property inside and out. But that is all contingent really on, having a contract and then having a review by our historic architects and that whole process of the historical assessment of the property.
And John, my 2 cents worth on that is boat would be much simpler than hauling up the hill.
There are boats. There are boats and there are boats. You know, I was wondering. Yeah.
Although there are issues.
Transparent organization. And if there are questions, you know, our deal is that we just want to move forward because we have several other projects in plan. And so if anybody could facilitate that, that'd be great. Are there any questions about the status of the purchase agreement? We want to move on to our committee updates, and we call them number one, fundraising committee, you know, our committee. And we've talked in previous times, instead of fundraising, it's really cultivation committee. And so we have Peter is on here. So any comments, Peter, about upcoming cultivation events and what we need to do to help?
Yeah, we are the big event is the July 28th event at Ted Steinbach's house with his extraordinary collection of Hubbards on view and his extraordinary style as a host. So we're in for a treat in that regard. But I think it's important to keep adding names of prospects. We still are scrambling a little bit for a lead prospect. We have some names in the hat that we think are going to come through, but we don't know for sure. Now, and then the second, so that's the big issue: getting the names of wealthy individuals who can lead this charge. The second issue, though, at any fundraising event of this kind is you need validators. You need people who can speak to the importance of the event. And these are not necessarily big money people. I'm thinking about people, for example, like Joanne Weeder. Joanne is going to be there on July 28th. Joanne did many hours of taping of Harlan Hubbard in 1987, the year before he died. And she, as a young person, along with her sister Julie, frequently visited the Hubbards. So these people who can speak to the importance of the event and can speak with some warmth about their experience of the Hubbards at firsthand, I think are important people to have at this event. So there are a number of people we'll make sure that are there. The other thing we're doing is doing some smaller cultivation events, and we're still adding names of hosts, and some of you may wish to volunteer as hosts for that. And we're having one event this coming Wednesday at the home of Alan Weiss. Alan's a premier folk art collector in Louisville, and he doesn't own any Hubbards, but he owns a number of works of art which display the same kind of craftsmanship and ingenuity and inventiveness that we think of in association with Harlan Hubbard. So that will be an event to look at some of our printed materials, get people's reaction, get people's sense of how they think we should sell Payne Hollow on the Ohio, what their connections are, what they see in terms of the long-term future. And we'll do a bunch of those events. And these are kind of sussing out who might be a major donor, but also adding to the list of prospects. It's what I call socializing the ask, creating a buzz about what we're doing and giving it a kind of, Francis better address this rather than me, the possibility of Fish and Wildlife, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation application in the America the Beautiful program. Francis, can I call on you to talk about that a little bit?
If it's appropriate at this point of the agenda, David, do you want to do? Okay,
that's perfect. Go ahead, Francis.
The Ohio Riverway is working on a grant application for infrastructure dollars that's coming through the Departments of Interior, Ag, and Defense through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, of all things. And that entity has been an administrator of public funds for 40 plus years. And So we are working on a 3-state ask. It can only be it can only go as high as 5 million. And so I grabbed with Dr. Wicks's support, grabbed the costs of some of the costs associated with the Payne Hollow project. And it's in the ask. It's due on Thursday. That's why I have my head down working on budgets. But you guys are in it for somewhere around $450,000 as a potential value to you all. It would be known to us in November, but I would definitely caution you not to assume that any of that would ever come your way. So maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'd be happy if it did. So that's what I'm working on. And Payne Hollow is one of 3 Kentucky projects included into a 3-state IIJA thing.
We just want to give many kudos to Frances for her hard work. And this is just one of the first many grants I think we'll be able to seek. And there are all sorts of conditions with it, but it is through the National Fish and Wildlife Agency. And so the importance of preserving Payne Hollow as a nature preserve, as a natural area, as well as an artistic creative center is so important. And so we hope these funds come to pass. And, you know, if we've already purchased it, we might be able to get some buffer land around it. And so it's just a neat deal. And this America the Beautiful grant, this is just the first of 5 years. And so they just rolled this out. And so it'll come around again next year.
Yeah, the only other thing is there's email traffic back and forth, because one of the reasons why we're excited about this infrastructure dollars for the Ohio River, if you will, is that we were hoping to garner the support of the congressman that voted for the infrastructure bill in the first place. That would be Mr. McConnell. And so Mr. McConnell's aide in DC is mighty confused by the involvement of the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in the middle of all this, which is natural because it seems a little weird. But I just, right before the call, David, and I've been in touch with a few of you on it, I talked to Trey Grayson, who's in Northern Kentucky. He used to be in state leadership in here. So he's going to help. I put the dogs on McConnell's aid because I think it's silly that he won't give us a letter of support.
That's what we're seeking. So Senator Portman and a couple other congressmen, as well as in Louisville, Mayor Fisher and Deborah Polsky wrote some nice letters. And so we have a wide variety of letters, and it's just a neat opportunity.
I wish we had. I'm wondering. Sorry, you go ahead, Gordon.
What is a significant lead commitment from these people? Were asking for a significant commitment. What is it? How much is significant?
$200,000.
Woo! Okay.
That's the number that comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That would, in essence, purchase the property, and then we would raise matching funds to maintain it.
Okay, so you're looking for one person who'll step up for $200,000. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct. But, yeah, I think that's correct. At the moment, we only have one prospect for that amount of money, and I'm sort of talking off the top of my head, but because we haven't really discussed this very much. But I think if you get the 200, if you get a lead of that magnitude, then the 50s and the 25s will follow. It gives people confidence in the process. A lot of people around this table have had experience of fundraising and can speak to this probably more astutely than I can. But we've got some foundation possibilities. The Horn Foundation, as I said, supported the Lanier Mansion in Madison. They like to do historic renovation. And there's some others. I do wish we had somebody who knew or who was close to or had a contact with Representative Thomas Massey, because he does represent the district, Trimble County, and he represents something like 240 miles of Ohio riverfront.
He has more frontage than any other congressman on the Ohio River.
Yeah, so he's crucial. I did send an email to Mac Brown, who used to be chair of the Republican Party in Kentucky, but he recently had a disastrous fire at his house, so he might be distracted. So I think we're looking at all the angles. We're doing what we can, I think.
We did not
these really are cultivation events, not saying this money today, and so it's a combination of both, I guess.
Right.
We didn't ask Massey to sign a letter of support for the America the Beautiful grant application because he was not a signature on, he didn't vote for the infrastructure bill in the first place. He has, though, participated in, or his aides have participated in, the Ohio River Way work, and talks about how he likes the river. So I don't see why in a calmer moment you can't go after Massey for whatever you want.
I want to move on, and John Fettig has also a series of meetings coming up that he's organized that are around that same time as our July 28th. And so, John, could you just give a quick overview of who you're planning on? And I'm going with him, by the way, and other folks are welcome to an extent. So, John, could you just briefly talk about your schedule and who you've...
So can I just jump in one more time? Once the PSA is signed, that triggers a 90-day time clock, right? Okay.
That's right.
Just want to make sure everyone remembers there's 90 days.
October 14th, as it is now. At least that's what is written in the thing.
Okay.
The people I will be seeing, accompanied by David, in a number of instances, is not on behalf of photo. It's just, but when David's there, it's a perfect opportunity to get authoritative updates about what we are doing. And I'm sure not the guy to do that without asking David anyhow. So we're going to arrive in town on Monday evening before the event at the Steinbachs, and on Tuesday I'm going to go down to see Jonathan Green, come back with some copies of Payne Hollow. So if any of you don't have a copy of Payne Hollow, you need one. If you want to really understand the Hubbard's, you got to almost start there, I think. And then on Wednesday, we're going up to the Hanover-Madison area where we're going to meet with the Hanover College president, Lake Lamberts, and make sure he's getting his questions answered, is up to speed. We're not looking for anything particular from the college at this point. There is at least a faculty member and a young alum, Hannah, who are interested in this project, and Lake is personally interested. We're going to meet Vicki Jenkins, who was married to Bob Rosenthal, who died here recently. He's probably the most influential person historically since well, anyhow, if you don't know Bob, we're going to meet Vicki and we're going to go out to her place, which is going to be an exciting discovery, David, for you, because it's a beautiful home in the woods on a creek, and that Bob and Vicki lived in, and Vicki still lives in. Then we're going to go to the Canadas and meet with I'm not exactly sure who else is going to be there yet, Bob, but some other Hanover-Madison probably people, just to again give them an update. And then on Friday, we're going to go to Northern Kentucky and go to the studio. And Chuck, Alex McIntosh is going to meet us there at 10 o'clock. I thought I heard that you were going to be out of town. Where did Chuck go?
I'm here.
Okay. I thought I heard you were going to be out of town.
I am leaving around the 28th. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The day before we'll be up there.
Yeah.
So David will see the studio, and then Eric and Jan Haas are going to meet us there a little bit after we get there. Eric is the mayor of Fort Thomas. He's a successful business person in the area. He happens to own the Hofbrauhaus in Newport, if some of you have been there. Eric and his wife Jan knew the Hubbards. They were in Payne Hollow as students. They knew Bob Rosenthal, know Vicki Jenkins really well. They are supportive of the Fort Thomas Forest Conservancy. Just real good, and he's on the Hanover College Board of Trustees. So a lot of real good connection, networking type things. And I'm really looking forward to all these people connecting with us through David primarily well. And then we're headed over to the Behringer Crawford Museum, where Laurie Risch, who's the executive director there, and Jason French, their curator, whom David has met. Laurie's going to host a meeting there. And again, these are updates on what's going on with Payne Hollow and who's doing what. But she has, I think, a board member. Her assistant will be there. Alex is going over. I was hoping that Chuck could be there, but with him not being there, Alex is there. And Jessica, I don't know how well you know Alex, but I'd sure like to see us get her involved somehow. She's a very competent, energetic person.
I've asked her to be an advisor along with Chuck.
Super.
So
Did she respond to you yet, Jessica?
not yet. I know she had some programming last week, but I'm sure she will eventually.
She's the one who told me about the artist in residence program.
Right.
And that's a cooperative thing with the Behringer Crawford to some extent.
And, the bottom line is we just want to ensure that we are reaching out and are inclusive of Northern Kentucky, Southern Indiana, of Madison. And so it's our intent. So John, thank you for organizing all those. And I look forward to participating. And if anybody wishes to come to any of them, you're more than welcome. Any other thoughts, Peter or John? I just want to sort of could you just talk briefly about this video you're creating or the background piece? And is there any piece you need to have any help with?
I didn't hear your last comment.
We have somebody with an echo.
I didn't hear your last comment. There was a lot of feedback, but
about the video.
Yeah, that's something after that specific question. But anyway, I've been reviewing a lot of material. Specifically, I watched Morgan Atkinson's documentary a couple times over the weekend. And I think what I'd like to do is have two different screens playing. This is the video for the fundraiser at Ted's house. Two different screens playing. One screen would be some excerpts from Morgan's documentary that highlights Payne Hollow as it was when they were there, Harlan and Anna Hubbard, as well as kind of a little bit of the history of it. And then on the other screen have things playing that is some archival photos, but also contemporary photos showing some of its dilapidation. And so to kind of tear a little bit at the heartstrings of people there, of like what situation is and what needs to be rectified. And just to have them playing simultaneously at different parts of the room to go back and forth with some potential ambient music or what have you as more of a background element, not something we're sitting and watching focused on. But because according to the talking with the board, last board meeting over at Ted's house, it was more or less going to be kind of a cocktail soiree of sorts where people are going to be mingling. And it's not going to be, there will be a couple of speeches, one from David and one from Jessica, I believe, but nothing too elaborate of a show. Sorry, my dogs are here. So more of something, the videos will be more of an atmospheric type of thing. Does that make sense?
Any other thoughts? Please get them to Joe. You know, it's many, many thanks. And just to let everybody know, Morgan Atkinson has donated several DVDs of the movie, so it's not only online. So if anybody still uses only hard discs, we'll have copies there for everybody.
Yeah, I've been talking with him, and he sent me over a few clips that I desired, and we're working on that. And if anyone, I mean, I know some people have sent some archival photos as well as some images of paintings or various things that are specifically about Payne Hollow. Those would be beneficial to include as well. So feel free to send things over. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm probably going to try to have things done for the next, over the weekend, and then I can send them out, but I'm not going to be able to have time to redo a lot of things until that night. So
perfect.
And then after that, we can kind of brainstorm a little bit, and I can try to compile something that we could send out, as a YouTube link or Vimeo link or what have you to people that is a little bit more specific, potentially with a voiceover and all that sort of thing. That is more of an ask.
Sounds great. Thank you, Joe. We have two more things by Jessica, and then I'm going to ask everybody to do a round robin. We've been talking at people for a long time, and we would just love to hear your initial thoughts. But Jessica, you're going to talk a little bit about marketing and communication and maybe the first steps of our survey.
Yeah, and I'm going to go quite quickly. So my big marketing and communications item is I am the chair. Joe has agreed to be on. Who else wants to be on marketing and communications? We have a lot to do, and a lot of this is going to be laying the groundwork for the eventual branding and then communications network. So our social media accounts, our eventual website, laying the groundwork for those sorts of systems where we can do outreach and talk to the our audience. This is fun work. So if you want to be involved in this, it's going to be a lot of brainstorming right at the beginning. But please let me know if you would like to serve, or somebody who would be a great asset to serving on a marketing and communications committee. And I'll just, since we're short on time, just please send me an email about that if you have thoughts. The survey, Ted Steinbach has connected me, as has David, with Dan Vivian at UK, who is going to help us out with the Historic American Buildings Survey. So I have asked him to let me know sometimes in the next couple weeks that we might sit down and get some more concrete details about what this is going to take, what costs are going to be involved in this, and what kind of potential timeline we're looking at. I know this could potentially be a longer process, especially because this will likely be done by students, which is a good thing, but also something that will be restricted based on their availability. So looking forward to moving forward with that. And as we're going about the Historic American Buildings Survey, Chuck, we were hoping that we could pick your brain or anyone else's brain on this call who has experience getting something onto the Historic Register. That's something that we would like to do for Payne Hollow eventually, and we want to make sure we're going about those steps as efficiently as possible. And we had mentioned a little bit early on in the call, that we still have some things to brainstorm and work out about the logistics of moving trash off of the property and of safely storing and moving historic artifacts, if need be, off of the property. So any ideas that you have, I'm your girl to send those to. So please feel free to send me any brainstorms or thoughts you have as regards those. Does anybody have any questions about that rapid fire information?
Jessica, the people down in Frankfurt are so helpful with the application for the historic registry. And I can't tell you how many drafts we shared back and forth, and their critiques and guiding was terrific. I mean, we made it on the first round, and there are many people who will submit and may have to reapply a number of times. So that's really nice. They're really good to work with.
Okay, that's great to know. And Chuck, I may ask if you can have a meeting or a phone call with me sometime just to talk me through a little bit about that. That would be really helpful.
Anytime.
Great. Hi, Gordon.
David, can I speak?
Yeah, Gordon.
Okay. One of the things I have a question about is the because we are in the early stages and trying to figure out what our communication strategy is. That sort of will have its own track, which is very quick, but we're also in a quicker track. We're looking for some people or peoples to step up for Ted's event on the 28th of July. I think that's correct. He put together an invite. Is that good enough to reach out to people that you want a big ask from? I mean, I don't, I'm just looking for advice about, we're looking for some people to step up before. He wants somebody to step up before then. Somebody. So he, at that event, he can say, we already have this and we're looking to the rest of you people to give that. So I'm just looking for what's the format for asking for those lead commitments. Is his invitation good enough to work with, or should be something else? I'm not sure.
I think that multiple contacts are probably necessary. John has produced some simple little note cards with an image of Payne Hollow of the cabin or the house on it, and I'm going to be, and I hope other people would be generating. Can have access to these note cards and generating notes to some people that potentially are important, and urging them to come on the 28th, and that may work. I know that Ted is making some personal calls before the 28th. I don't know what that schedule is. But I think it's the personal touch that's necessary. But the Evite is absolutely, that was the inevitable way we'd have to do it because of the time frame and the lack of a huge office staff to process everything.
So his Evite, I mean, is fine to use.
Yes, but yes, it's the only way we can get it done. But I think that it's supplementing the Evite with personal contact when we know some of these high net worth individuals is also important.
I think also, Gordon, and we have, as a board, not really have talked about the sharing of the budget and our work plan for the next 3 years. And so often people who are going to give money, they'd like to know what it's going to be used for. And so having a fundraising packet or a description of it, that's why in part it's so good that we're working with Francis to do this America the Beautiful grant, because in part that's going to turn into a statement of need and our objectives for the next 3 years. So
okay, well, I'm looking for a 10-day plan to guide whatever life's energy I have to put into it, given everything else I've got going on, just like the rest of you. So in 10 days, I just saw Ted saying, look, you know, we're reaching out, we're going to get as many people there as we can. What are we saying and what's okay to say? So I'm just looking for a little guidance on that.
Well, that's one of the things we're going to try and address at some of these cultivation events like the one on Wednesday night. We do have space for one more person. Shelley Ziegert, who we wanted to be there, can't come. So if there's one of you who wish to attend that, please let me know.
thank you very much. I think we do have a lot of work to do in front of us. I want to go on around and let people sort of give a final comment and some thinking about what they believe, and just the floor is open. And we're going to start with folks who haven't said much. And so I'm going to say, Bob Canada, what do you think? You know, any observations?
Such high energy and direction. I'm impressed, and you know, things that we can do to help. It feels like we're kind of small potatoes down here compared to what you guys are doing up there, and the diligence and the depth of everything. So thank you very much. And
well, we're looking forward to being up there in Madison. Mr. Begley.
I did have a conversation with an architect at the IU's Masters in Architecture program last week, and he's currently running a HABS study, Jessica, at Beck's Mill, which is a 1814 grist mill that's recently been restored, and they're measuring both the building and the machinery in it. He's paying his people, 3 students, $20 an hour, 40-hour work weeks, 8 to 10 weeks in the summer. He didn't think he would be able to get to a HAB study until next summer if he was, you know, running one of these, and it's usually a summertime activity. So we may not expect Dan, and maybe he will tell us differently, but it's likely to be next summer before the HAB study can take place. And three students at $2,500 a week times that is a substantial sum, 25,000 or better. So we need to start thinking about that cost in order to do that. He also said, and maybe Mr. Canada, you know something about this, but the Cook Medical Devices has a foundation that does, they restored this Beck's Mill, or were the lead funder for that. They're in Bloomington, Indiana, but they've restored the hotels at West Baden and French Lick, as well as this project in Washington County, Indiana. And supposedly they have property in the Madison area. If you know anything about that and have any way of letting us contact that foundation, I think it would be really worthwhile.
I've been associated with Historic Madison, and they would have those contacts. I'm not aware, but I'll check with the Historic Madison and see what that would be like.
John, you said you did. It looks like the HAB survey is not something that can take place within the 90-day window.
I think that's next to impossible unless Dan has 3 or 4 students ready to go immediately, and he's been gone. So
I'll just say I really don't know about exactly how they're done. Is there any like preliminary HAB survey or something to?
I know Ted has invited the architect from the IU school to his event. I don't know. I gave him his contact information, and maybe he'll be down on the 28th.
It just seems like waiting till next summer is really going to screw us up.
I don't think the HAB study is I think we have work to do whether we have the HAB study or not. I don't think it precludes us proceeding with a lot of other things. Well, you know, we also, you know, have the Ray Kleinhelter's sort of broken down bid on stabilization things, and there's plenty of work there that is in between HABs and now and HABs. So, and I don't think we ought to do anything that would endanger the HABs recommendation, but stabilization is not one of those. And I think we can proceed to take care of the property without messing up the HABs part of it.
Okay, well, I just think it's important that all of us understand sort of the timeline of what can be done and when.
Right. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I didn't know that either. And this conversation made it clear that the HAB study is not a quickly done kind of thing. I mean, getting students down there for 40 hours a week, we're going to have to think about trail building.
Yes. Yeah, I did put this in the chat quickly. We were prepared for the possibility that HABs wasn't going to be able to happen immediately. I think there is a lot that we can do in terms of our own volunteer documentation of things in the event that it's going to be a 2 to 3 year process to get this done. Yeah, I agree with John, and this is something we talked about in our board meeting as well, that getting things safe and dry through that initial estimate and really carefully selecting what kind of work gets done that's going to be the least invasive possible, that won't interfere with any of the HABs, but also making sure that we're preserving things well enough that they're not going to fall apart, you know, within the time period that the HABs is able to get there. It's going to be a delicate line, but hopefully we can just engage and get as much documented as possible, you know.
And then we add into it trying to deal with an insurance agency for liability. So there's all sorts of issues to ensure the building is stable and dry. Chuck, any final observations? And I just wanted to say thank you, John, for all those comments. And he's been great at emailing all of us with those contacts. Feel free to do that. That's what we're about. Chuck, any comments, any thoughts? This is your first meeting. We've been sort of round robbing for a while.
I am overwhelmed. There's such talent. You've already done so much so quickly to gear up to address the situation. I'm honored that you invited me and truly overwhelmed. And at some point, you know, I'm sure Jessica will get a hold of me and we'll talk about that documentation and getting things ready. Because once something is on that National Register, it really ups your game for fundraising. That's what we noticed. It really, really helps.
Mr. Hill, any comments? You're on mute, Bob.
Were you talking? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. Yeah, I'm a little conflicted now at this point because I'm also on the board of Waterfront Botanical Gardens. And on the committee, we're getting ready to build a Japanese garden and launch a huge fundraiser in September. So what I can do here with your group, as I mentioned earlier, is write stories for the Courier Journal. I will get involved in the communications part. But I've watched the botanical gardens go from 50 cents on a whistle to raise $24 million in about 10 years. So it's very possible, and 225,000 isn't that much in the world of fundraising these days.
Thank you, Bob. We're just, you know, your insights are invaluable. Mr. Nation?
I'm just ready for boots on the ground. I think that if we get there and start cleaning up and doing some stuff and let people see what the progress is, actually see it, that would be helpful.
John Fettig, any more?
Just real quickly, I'm thinking about the event at Ted Steinbach, so I'm going to be there. We got to get people there. Sometimes it's the person who sends the invitation, but it's almost always voice contact that gets somebody there, you know. So I hope that if Ted can't personally get all those folks there, by giving them a call, that somebody will think about, well, who else can call? Who else can get them there? Now, if they show up, that's great. And my thought about the event itself is, David, you referred to this, prospective donors clearly are going to want to know what are you going to do with Payne Hollow once you own it. So the program is going to, somebody's going to address that. And even though it's like, well, this is a work in progress, that's fine. But we need to be ready to respond to that. And the other thing I thought I would mention, if we're talking about asking, if these are the real prospects who are at this event, and they're not going to be asked at the event for their contribution, that's appropriate to not. This is a cultivation event. An interesting thing sometimes happens. We put all of our effort into the event and don't have a plan for getting back to people after the event. So we might want to be thinking a little bit about who is it that's going to follow up, or at least tentatively. That could change from who talks to whom at the event, but who's going to follow up after the event with these individuals who are considered significant prospects, because they'll be ready after the event, hopefully, to talk to somebody if they're a prospect.
Thank you, John. You know, and one thing is that Ted would love to do this once a week, he said. So we can have an event at Ted's house every week if we wanted to, Peter. Peter, any final observations or thoughts? You're on mute, Peter. You're on mute. Oh.
Yeah, I think the feedback's been great. The change's been great. The energy's great. It's, as other people have said, it's exciting to see the sense of marching forward.
And if Francis, any final comments besides saying McConnell to write a letter?
Yeah, why do I have to tackle Mitch McConnell? I had a question about what's the total amount we're trying to raise. The $3 million, the budget for 3 years is $1 million. And I think we need a clear answer on what the total number is, what we're trying to raise, not the purchase amount, but.
Our initial ask is for $500,000 for this first year, which would be the purchase price plus enough money to use the basic stable and dry and all of the basic work.
Okay, then my second comment is, Bob, Mr. Hill, your involvement with the Botanical Gardens might be a great, if you're looking for ways to reduce conflict, you could have an exhibit at the Botanical Gardens on behalf of the Hubbards.
That sounds good. And conflict's not a word we use. We're working with all the different organizations. Well, we're not, I know it's there inherently, but we work very hard not to conflict with Bernheim and Udell and all the rest of it. We're all in this together. We really feel that. And
yeah, I
think we can do that. I think that's valid.
Maybe I'm just talking about the conflict of your own time.
Well, I'm retired, right?
Well, the Botanical Gardens is a wonderful place. My little girl might be getting married there next year, so we'll see. You know, it's a beautiful place. Gordon, any final comments?
I just encourage the three teams to continue to do their work and keep us informed, because I learned like something from each team that's different than what we thought. And that's just the nature of the beast. So just let's keep each other in the loop, and it's all good. I mean, we're really working well together on a fast track, and good things will happen.
If anybody wants more emails, just let me know. I can send them their way.
Please, God, no.
Joe Wallach, any final thoughts or comments? And we're going to end up with Jessica.
Just want to say, in listening to Gordon, John Fettig, and Peter Moore, and John Begley talking about things, I do agree that after this initial meet and greet, there's got to be a little bit more of a focus towards the big donors, I guess. I mean, I've never really been involved with fundraising on a large scale other than like some personal projects I've done. So I don't know, but it seems like that's where we got to get to after this meeting. I think it's good that Ted is hosting this for a general larger audience, but I think if we want to get that big donor, there's got to be a definite focus after this, unless it comes out of this meeting. Hopefully it does. Otherwise, Ted's going to be spending $200,000 in wine and hors d'oeuvres to keep hosting all these events. So
if he's spending $200,000 on wine and hors d'oeuvres, he's making a mistake. He could just buy a piece of land.
But Jessica? One thing, Peter, you mentioned something about Wednesday night. I'm not an expert in any way on fundraising, but if you need another person, I'd be happy to go to that. But I think there's other people on this group that are more important in that regard, but maybe they're already going. So
I doubt it. Jessica?
I don't have much else to add other than please, if you have any ideas or questions, please come to me. I am so excited to talk with any of you and all of you about your ideas as regards my purview here and just anything. So very happy to collaborate, very happy to be working with all of you.
Well, I personally wanted to thank everybody for the time. We're a little bit over. And just make sure you go out and look at the river at least once today, or at least once this week. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. It's still there. Think Payne Hollow. It's wonderful. And if anybody has any contact with Paul, encourage him to sign. Because this is all for naught. You know, maybe we're just doing a good exercise. Who knows? I believe we're going forward, though. Thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch.
See ya.
Bye.